Hi, I'm Jeannie Kelly, your credit coach, and I'm so excited to have Deb Killian on today. Hi, Deb.
Hi, Jeannie. How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for this
Awesome.
opportunity. This is great. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you because to me, you are the driving leading force in the mortgage industry, especially with education. So I'm just so excited to have you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I don't know about the driving force, but I'm still driving.
Let me ask you this. What got you in the very beginning into the mortgage industry?
Oh, do you really want to know this? I was an accountant before I got into the mortgage business, and I owned an accounting business. And one of my clients was a mortgage company, a small mortgage broker business, actually, who rented space in the same building where my accounting office was. And I was their accountant. So I handled all their, books and so forth. And one day she said to me, why don't you get into the mortgage business? And I said, oh, I'm not a salesperson. I'm an accountant. And she said, who are you kidding? Every time you move your lips, you sell something. I said, really? And then like 9 months passed after that conversation, and I sold my accounting business, and she came back to me and she said, why don't we have lunch? And it was 2 glasses of wine. And I said, okay, I'll get into the mortgage business. Yeah, 2 glasses of wine. And I was like, yeah, this sounds like a good thing to do.
Well, that is funny. I always joke and say, and I probably saw you at a lot of the conventions, when I went to mortgage conventions to grow the Kelly Group, I did more business at the happy hours, at the bar, having cocktails, really getting to know people. That's what grew my company, not, always being on the stage. So when I hear wine and mortgages, I get it.
You get it.
I do.
I started
And
working
then,
with her, and I was only there I was originating for about 6 months. And for whatever reason, World Savings and Loan, remember World Mortgage, they came along and recruited me for a wholesale position. So very early in my career, I got a lot of quick experience on the retail side from a broker perspective and on the wholesale side.
okay. And then then you pivoted because I know you, like I said, the leading force in the education for mortgage loan officers. So what had you, jump and go into that lane?
So I will tell you that the woman who I agreed to have the job with over the wine, my first day on the job, and I don't know, your audience may be younger now these days, but, we used to have 3-ring binders, with the hole punched paper and the little tags. And I came to work the first day on the job. And she said to me, I said, okay, where do I go to learn? How am I going to learn this business? And, coming from the accounting background, that's a pretty strict discipline. So I was thinking there was books and classes and things. And she just said to me, oh, you're so cute. And I said, no, really, where am I going to learn? And she said, just go get apps. Go bring donuts to realtors and go get apps. And back then in 1994, an app was an application, not something on a cell phone. We didn't even have cell phones. So that moment hit me because when I owned my accounting business, I taught continuing education, bookkeeping classes to people for local schools, high schools. And I thought, really? And from that moment, I thought to myself, there's an opportunity here and I love to teach. And so I just started sucking up every bit of information I could find. I spent a lot of time with wholesale executives, the reps, account reps, to learn what I could so that I could start writing my own courses. And I did that. I started writing very early in my career.
Okay. And now when you go to your website, I
Yes.
saw you have so many courses. Who is it when you're trying to get business? Are you going to the individual loan officers or the banks, or how do you get the students?
Well, so one of the things I'll tell you I'm really bad at is marketing. And so it's been a very grassroots, one-on-one, meeting people, seeing people on Facebook, seeing people on LinkedIn, watching comments and me commenting back, and then getting people on the phone. We're not all over the place, like, some of the larger companies are. And we do work with companies and individuals. So like I just hung up the phone with a young lady from my Miami area who said she was looking for CE, but she didn't know we had all these other courses. So I started talking to her about our origination practice course is really the one course that I think if anybody in the business hasn't gotten any formal origination practice training, that's the course. It's an 18-hour course, and it teaches everything from taking the application to how to read the credit report, structuring loans, pricing loans, reading tax returns, qualifying income, mortgage products. It goes through everything. And I put that course together because I realized very early in my career, there really is no training in this industry, any standardized type of training. So that's the one course that we certainly encourage, newer and even seasoned originators. I was just telling this young lady that, I had somebody in one of my classes. He was in the business for 22 years and he wrote me this long, really nice testimonial. And he said, I can't believe that I've been in business for 22 years and never knew half the stuff that you taught me in this class. Why can't we get this at the beginning?
Yeah.
So I feel like I've hit a nerve. I think I've got something, and it's different than some of the other courses out there. It's, there's programs. I think a lot of times what happens is somebody gets hired, they get onboarded, they get taught where to go into their systems. They get taught about platforms and, marketing and all of that, but they just don't ever get those deep practices. They don't understand what to do. And you learn by error, and learning by error is a very dangerous thing because now you're affecting customers, real estate relationships, other referral partners. It affects your whole business when you make mistakes. So that's kind of what was the impetus behind me writing that course.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but I kind of remember, and it might have been before you need license with being a mortgage lender. Weren't you part of being like on a mortgage ethics committee or something like that regarding to make sure that people are doing the right thing?
So I was involved with NAM, National Association of Mortgage Brokers, way back before the SAFE Act passed. And we were kind of the driving force between originators need some sort of education. And I'm glad that Congress passed the SAFE Act, and it was passed in the middle of the night with all the other nonsense that went on because of the subprime crisis, but it didn't go far enough. And I think, yes, and I was involved. I was president of the Connecticut Mortgage Brokers Association. I served on the FHA panel, not an specific ethics committee, but on the education committee. I did lobbying with the NAMPAC and, went to Congress and, went through all those lobbying activities. And it's just amazing what the regulators who are passing all these laws, and then the regulators like the CFPB who enforce the laws, really don't understand about what goes on, where I call at the kitchen table, what goes on when you're sitting with the customer, and what are these people saying? And do companies and managers and owners of companies have any idea what their salespeople are doing and saying? And there's been this catch as catch can kind of a training thing where you get a little here and a little there. There's no continuity. There's no building on curriculum, which is what the 18-hour course does. It builds on the curriculum. There's no way to learn and then apply, and then learn and then apply. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of money in this business. A lot of people get into it and think, they'll just do the best they can, make as much as they can. And then sometimes they don't hang around for too long. So the industry itself, I think, is still behind the 8 ball when it comes to training, because they're doing some training, but it's not consistent, and it doesn't teach foundational knowledge. What we try to teach, Jeanne, is no matter what the environment is, if you're in a subprime environment, if you're in some wacko environment, if it's a constricted environment where, credit is tightening, if it's in a 7% interest rate or a 3% interest rate, if people understand the why they have to do what they have to do, then that gets translated and applies to, it doesn't matter what the environment is. It doesn't matter what the guidelines are. So that's kind of the perspective, that we come from.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's why I would think your course is a number one seller, because learning, I mean, once you know how to do your job well and to serve your clients and your realtors' clients and so forth, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer to grab your course, take it, and become, you're saying these are big, basic steps, but detailed. And I always say in the credit business, because you actually even said this, a lot of times you learn by the mistakes, and why not be proactive? And same thing in the credit business. And I always say, let's just learn credit basics. Once you master the basics, you can branch out, but master the basics. Don't just, go with the flow here. And the weird thing is we work so hard for our money. So when it comes to applying for a mortgage and getting that loan for 30 years, you want to make sure you're working with someone who's taken your course, and feel safe with them.
And the other thing that we're doing now is, so that's working kind of on it with individuals that may or may not come from a company, but now we've got companies that are basically saying, realize education's an expensive proposition. It takes a lot of time to develop the content. And I know you know this, a lot of time to develop the content, market it, get it out there, deliver it. There's a lot to it, managing the systems behind, right? So, we use WordPress and we have a Moodle site, and, all of those things take time and investment. And a lot of people don't really understand why they have to pay for education. And so it's been kind of a race to the bottom in a sense, where anybody will just take whatever they can for as cheap as they can. That's not always the best way to go, right? And one of the other things is, I think people lose one of the parts that one of the courses we teach is about what's called impact, the psychological, financial, and emotional impact that we have on every single person that we deal with. And I think we sometimes can forget that. We're so caught up in taking the application, calling Jeanne and saying, I got to fix the credit, help me fix his credit. Trying to get the customer approved and closed. We forget there's a person behind that application with a life, with kids, with families, with health issues, with financial issues, and I think people who get that then realize how important it is that they become experts, that they know what they're doing. There's so many people out there, and I'm sure you see this yourself. I think sometimes I try to tag you and bring it to your attention when I see people saying things that I'm like, oh my gosh, are they telling customers things like this? Right. And a long time ago, I learned from another instructor, there's no right way to do the wrong thing. And if you're going to do the right thing, you need to know what you're doing. And the only way to do that is to get the knowledge. So it's kind of it's interesting. It's an interesting challenge to get people to value knowledge.
Right.
That's really, and I know you know this inside and out from all your years of experience.
Yeah. And you have to we're not done, right? So even though I feel like, obviously, I live and breathe the credit industry, but things change in the credit industry. So you have to continue to keep learning and, keep researching and stay on top of your game. So, go to your website. Please tell everyone where they can find you.
So our website is, it was a little play on words, close.online, but it's actually spelled CLOES.online. We've tried to figure out what does that stand for. It's the Comprehensive Loan Originator Education System. So it was a little play on the word close, like closing, but we thought that would be kind of an appropriate name. The other thing is compliance. A lot of people hear the word compliance and they kind of freak out a little bit and they think about laws. And we're also offering now quarterly classes where companies can sign people up in advance. What I started to say before I lost my train of thought was we have companies that just call us now and they go, okay, actually one guy doesn't even call me. He emails me and he'll say, okay, I just hired this person. He's copied on the email. get them the 20 hours, get them licensed, because we do 20-hour pre-licensing as well, and then get them going. And so companies don't have the resources to be able to manage and invest in the time and the money that it takes to set up an education system. So we are an education arm, especially for smaller to mid-sized companies that just don't have that resource.
Right. That's perfect. To me, why even bother? I'd rather you exist. Everyone just needs to find out about you. So I hope everyone's listening to this podcast today because you've done the hard work. You've laid the foundation of these amazing classes. So just like that gentleman has emailed out part of his system, what a nice way to just do business as a owner of, because that's awesome. I would be 100% doing that exact same thing. And it's just finding you. And you see you're not good at marketing, but I don't believe
good at marketing.
I don't believe it. I always see you commenting and posting. I see your face on LinkedIn all the time. And I know I've seen you get so many events. So you're doing something right because people are asking you to speak at these events. So it's just,
you know what?
You don't realize it. You're natural.
Thank you. You know that you have your niche, your knowledge area where you're the expert, right? And we don't want to be all things to all people. We were teaching CE for a while online, and we decided that's not really what we want to focus on. I want to teach people how to do this job, how to do it well, how to serve consumers in a way that they're being treated with respect and with dignity, and we're not torturing them. A lot of torture goes on in a mortgage transaction. And I think people also forget, if I can just throw this in, you fight really hard to get that business from a real estate agent or from a CPA, or you're constantly looking for those referral sources. And it's so easy to just blow that relationship by not knowing what you're doing. It's like you invest all the time in the marketing, but where's the meat behind it all? You know, what is it that you're selling yourself? How do you sell yourself if you don't really know what you're supposed to know? And again, coming from an accounting background, you know, I had to have a 4-year accounting degree. I think, I wish mortgage origination would become a real profession where people could actually go to school to get the knowledge that they need. But unfortunately, it seems like this business is just a big sales gig, right? And I think the people that do well are the ones that realize, hey, I can turn this into a profession myself. I don't need the world to do it for me. And that's taken initiative. And I think initiative's really important.
Absolutely. And again, your course is out there. So take the course, become the expert. And let's ask you this. Can someone take nationwide? Is it virtual?
It's online, on demand. It's all video recorded. There's quizzes, case studies, a final exam. It's a pretty robust course. And yes, it's nationwide. So we're licensed in all 20 states under the NMLS for pre-licensing education. And obviously, this is kind of what I call elective, right? It's not a required course, although if you want to do your job well, I think it should be required. But it's available to anybody at any time.
Okay. And what are you working on now? Anything new and exciting?
I am actually. So with the finance market kind of shutting down and being a little sidelined here with rates, I realize there's a lot of originators out there that would like to get in front of real estate agents and they just don't know how. You know, I watch these Facebook posts and people saying, you know, how do I get the realtor's attention? How do I get them to send me business? So I'm working on a program right now. I'm hoping to have it ready in the first quarter, called the Instruct program. And what it is I also teach continuing education classes for real estate agents. I've decided that I can teach originators how to do that very same thing. And then they can get in front of real estate agents. And then they're not begging for business. People are coming to them because they realize they know what they're talking about when they're teaching.
Yeah.
So that's my next course, Instruct program.
That's exciting. Okay. We'll have to have you back on when you launch it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And I always ask everyone, how'd you learn about credit?
I knew you were going to ask me that question because I was thinking about it. How did I learn about credit? Because I teach a lot of it. There was this book back in the day when I first started called Credit Scores and Credit Reports. It was a red cover with a little yellow banner on it. And I bought it one day and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get my head wrapped around this whole credit issue. And I realized how many people didn't understand credit, didn't know what made good credit or bad credit, thought they had good credit. You had those people that call you up and say, oh, my credit's great. And then you pull the credit report and it's, a 620 credit score and they don't understand why. So it was that book. But then quite honestly, Jeanne, a lot of what I learned was from you. I learned well about credit and I learned that I don't know enough about it to really properly advise people. I can give them general information, but that's why I've always said, if anybody needs credit repair, you are the person to go to for that, because that's a whole different specialty that you have there.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me ask you, when you went for accounting, did you learn about credit in accounting? Or are you saying you learned? Yeah. Or are you saying when you learned and found that book, were you in the mortgage industry at that point?
I had first gotten into the mortgage business and I was like trying to get a handle on these credit reports.
Yep.
And it was then. No, I don't know of any other time in my life where I had learned, been given information, talked about credit. I don't think until I picked up that book and I actually started taking loan applications and I met you very early on.
Yeah. We've known each other a long time.
We've known one another a long time. So you helped me out a lot in the very beginning. And quite honestly, now I pretty much stopped originating. My whole focus now is on education and training.
I love that. And I love that for you, because I know you love teach. So to be able to, it's almost like what I'm doing the same thing. I love teaching. Mm-hmm. We all use it. It's not just the swipe a card and that's when we're using it or when we need the loan. We're using it all the time, but we're not taught how to use it in a healthy way. So I'm following your lead there with the courses and all of that good stuff. And it really is great when you have individuals who you think, why are you even taking my course? You're a financial advisor or, you've been in the mortgage industry 20 years, but they're like, but no one taught me about credit.
Nobody ever taught them. Right.
Yeah.
That
makes
I hear in our courses, why didn't people teach us this earlier? The biggest problem with underwriting is debt to income. People either not calculating the income correctly or what I say, overstating income and understating liabilities, which becomes a double whammy on a debt to income. And I'm just like, coming from the accounting business, I was shocked that people in this business couldn't read tax returns. They don't know the difference between a K-1 and a 1099 and, just being able to figure out what they're supposed to know. And again, I just go back to the fact, Jeanne, and there's a lot of money to be made in this business. There's a lot of people making a lot more money than some of the accountants, some of the financial planners. I mean, there's a lot of money on the table. To have no investment in the knowledge base, to me, is just mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, they can take your course. They'll learn. They can sleep at night because they know they've been, they took the course and they invested in themselves to be the best in their industry. And you're the woman to do that. So thank you so much for, yeah. Well, I believe that wholeheartedly. And I'm just so excited that you were able to join us today. And thank you so much, Deb.
Thank you, Jeanne. I appreciate it. And I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And I hope to see you soon.
Okay. See you soon. Bye, Deb.
All right. Take care.